Okay, modelers, so tonight we're going to start on this Skywarrior. Now, the reason I've got this kit is one of my subscribers, and he will, I take it he'll comment in the comments below. I don't want to mention his name, but he's someone that I know over in America who's just been hit by the hurricanes over there, and I had a bit of a back on the forwards with him after this happened. I know his house was a little bit damaged, and he was saying that his father used to fly in these things as the Bombardier or the Navigator, and also his father was the responsible for the first video ever taken of one of these things coming down, and the nose gear was collapsed on the aircraft and it was caught in the nets, and his father actually videotaped that, and you can actually see that on YouTube, and you can actually see that happening. So anyway, I offered to do something. I said, well, there's not much I can do really, so I offered to, you know, if there's any reviews you want me to do or anything like that, just let me know and I can put them up, just sort of lift your spirits and all that sort of thing. Because back here where I live, we've been through a cyclone. We call them cyclones here, you call them hurricanes over there. We went through a cyclone a few years ago, and I've seen the devastation, and we had friends that lost their houses and things like that. Actually, I had an uncle that lost, well, almost lost his whole house. Basically had to replace all the chipboard in the house and all the cupboards and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I know the devastation, I know the heartache it causes, and it really is. It's something that affected me personally, and when he said in the comments that his dad actually flew in these things as the Bombardier and the Navigator, and that he took that footage, and he also mentioned that his dad is very, very ill, and so I sort of thought, well, it's an opportunity for me to do something. So I looked at the footage, I looked at the era that his dad flew from the 50s, 60s, 70s, all those sort of eras, and I looked at the planes that flew. I didn't want to sort of question him too much as into exactly what markings on the aircraft that he flew in, or and I looked at the aircraft that actually crash landed on the deck and all that sort of thing, and I thought, well, I can ask him about the particular markings, that way he's going to know that I'm actually doing the kit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this kit, I'm going to put the markings on that you see on the box here. They may be wrong, more than a big chance they are wrong for the particular aircraft that he flew in. And I know they're definitely wrong for the aircraft that he captured crash landing, but this is a little bit of a special sort of thing that I want to do. I'm hoping that I can do justice to what I'm trying to do, as in I want to do this as a bit of a gift to this subscriber and to his father. The fact that his father serves for so long in these aircraft is just astounding on its own. But the fact that his father captured that footage and all that sort of thing is just a really special thing. And I really didn't want to interrupt and sort of break the gift. I wanted it to be a bit of a surprise. So what I've done, I bought this kit here. I know there's an older kit that was a little bit closer to the actual version that his father may have been flying, but the reason I want this kit here is because I know it's a newer kit, I know it's much more detailed, and I know I can do a lot better job on this kit. So hopefully, mate, I know you're watching, and I know you'll probably answer in the comments below. I really appreciate all the time you spent making comments to me and making me feel good about what I do here on YouTube, and I really, really hope that this build that I'm putting out for you and for your dad sort of does a little bit of justice and does actually lift your spirits a little bit for what you're going through. So anyway, guys, having said that, I don't want to ramble on too long, so I'm going to go on with the build now. What I'll do a quick inbox review here now, and we'll get on with the build, and I'll present this to my subscriber and a good mate and his dad. Yeah, so anyway, guys, I'll get on with this. I'm breaking up a little bit, sorry guys. It's like I say, it hits a little bit close to home because I know the things I've been through myself, and you know, things I've seen, so it's cracked me up a little bit. So I'm going to just get on with doing a review on the kit, and then get on with the build, guys. So anyway, mate, hope you really enjoyed this review. Hope you really enjoyed this build. and I really hope your dad gets something out of it too. So anyway guys, what we'll do, we'll get on with the kit review now. So as you see guys, it's a rather large kit. I've got my camera panned fairly well all the way out, and it is a very large kit. I'm sort of moving now, I'll put my hands up here so you can see. Just forgive the colour on my hands guys, I've been painting and doing all sorts of modelling, so I've got all sorts of stones on my hands at the moment. But gives you an idea how big this box is. Absolutely huge. It's a 48 scale, it's not 32nd scale, so 48 scale, it's a pretty big box. But then again, you've got to remember this aircraft is a huge aircraft, and as you can see by the box art, it is an absolutely beautiful machine. It's one of the nicest looking flying aircraft I think they've ever built. It's absolutely beautiful, so sleek and absolutely gorgeous. And the box art on this box is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of those box arts that I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to keep this aside. I will keep this box art. So I'll turn it up on the side here, and hopefully you'll be able to see we've got a few markings on the side here that we can go with. It's pretty much only one in there that we can sort of go with. We haven't got a lot of options guys, so we're going to have to go with what's on the box there. But that's fine. I love the markings that's on this thing, and hopefully my mate won't mind too much that I've gone with those markings rather than trying to look into what his father's aircraft actually was. And forgive the squeaking chair in the background. So anyway guys, first thing we've got here is our instructions, and usual with our Trumpeter instructions here, nice big booklet, really nice, nice big thick pages, so it's not those flimsy sort of half photocopy things. The first thing we have is our sprue callouts here. So one of the things I'm going to do, because this has got so many sprues, I'm going to go through and put tabs on the sprues here, so that when I'm flicking up in the boxes that I don't get sort of lost in the sprues. And as you can see, it goes over the next page as well. And the first one here, we're going to start in our cockpit. Now the cockpit in this thing here, you've got a pilot and you've got a navigator or bombardier. So it's a fairly large cockpit, and looking at the instructions here, it's fairly detailed, which is really nice. And I noticed, I haven't looked through it completely, but I flipped up the lid inside there before, and I noticed there is a little bit of photo etch, so hopefully this thing's going to be very detailed. And I can see here the PE markings, so there's quite a bit of PE in the photo etch inside the cockpit, so it should be a really nice cockpit. And I can see by the amount of work that goes in just to put the cockpit together, that it's going to be quite a nice cockpit there. So we go into a little bit more of the cockpit, then we go on to over here, we've got our landing gear going together. Inside the wheel wells, and the wheel wells also got the well, as you can see over here guys, it's got all the nice detail moulded onto the plastic. So if you want to show the underneath this aircraft, that's all there as well. And also you can see here guys, putting the wheels together, it's not just like a, just plug a few pieces of plastic together. These things here, we've got rubber wheels on it, and we've got the plastic inserts putting them together, so they're very detailed. Inside the back here, we've got all these welds going together, putting onto the floorboards. We've got the extra seats going onto the panels in the background here, where all these panels are, where all the operators would have sat. And like I say, it's a very big aircraft, so I mean, you see that all those panels and all those chairs, there's quite a few people actually operating these machines, so that's why it is such a big aircraft. You've got you've got 4 chairs in the background there, all got their own little panels that they're operating on. I can't give you the details as to what they're doing on each panel, but you just know there was a lot into flying this aircraft and the operations that it actually was involved in. So there's a little bit more here going on with the nose well and things like that. And then you've got the fuselage halves going together and locking those parts in. So these parts over here are part of the tail, and they get plugged in over here on this step here. I'll try and get this to flip over. Just forgive the red spots on my hand guys, I was doing a little bit of red masking before and it's got stuck all over my hands. So we've got the canopy going on here, we've got the nose going over as well. I'm not really sure yet guys, we're going to have the panels open up or I'm going to have them closed up, but the nose is one of those parts I can have it opened up because there's detail inside there that I can actually show off. But I'm not sure, I think I might just have this thing completely closed up sitting on a deck like she's ready to be launched or she's just landed or whatever, so that it just looks like the neat aircraft rather than having panels and stuff opened up. Then we've got the doors here going on around the wheel wells. We've got a landing hook and stuff going on, the undercarriage going on. Then we've got our flaps for our wings going on over here. And as you can see, the way this looks, it looks like you can actually have the flaps droop down into the droop position or whatever you sort of want to do with that. So you've got a few options here to do with the wings. And it's something I'm sort of going to have to look at as I go through the build. I'll go through the instructions a bit more carefully when I go through the build and work out what I'm going to do. And it looks like you can have the tips of the wings sort of folded up as well, rather than having them down flat. But again, it's something I'm going to have to look at when I actually go through the build, see what I want to do. Then we've got the main wings going onto the fuselage. Then we've got the tail wings going together and going on the fuselage as well. And then we've got the main tail going on there after that. And this looks like the tips on the wings, and because of all the PE parts and things like that and the hinges, like I say, you can have these lifted up so they're in the raised position. So she's sitting on the deck and she's all folded up. But it's something I have to sort of look at whether I want to have it in that position or whether I want to have it sort of folded down. I think at this stage, guys, I think I'm going to have it completely folded out with the wings completely straight. But I may change my mind. It's going to depend as I go through the build. Then we got those wing tips going on. As you can see, they can go on in the up position or the down position. And then we got all our jet parts going on. And as you can see over here, we've got a whole page full of parts going together just to put the jet engines together. And then the last page, this is the back page, we've got our jets going on. We've got our hydraulic arms going on for our flaps on the sides, for on the wings, all that sort of thing. So again, you can have all these things lifted and raised and show all the detail inside. But that's something you have to sort of look at as I go through the build, guys. We got our decals here. Now, these decals I know because I've actually looked at, one of my friends has got this kit, and we've had these decals out the other day and had a look at them, and they're really, really nice. Well, they look really, really nice, but we'll actually see when we start putting them down. But everything's there for what I need. And I know the other day I sort of run my finger over my friend's decals to feel them, and they're nice and smooth, they're nice and flat, they're not sort of raised and they're not too thick and stuff like that, and they look very, very nice. But it's one of those things, guys, we're going to have to see when we actually put the thing together. And here we have our call outs here for our decals, painting colours and things like that. A really nice coloured sheet. And as you can see, this thing's got some beautiful markings on it. And there's quite a few different colours on there, even though it looks like just a grey aircraft with a little bit of white work and stuff like that. This thing actually has got a few different colour variations on it. So it's going to be a little bit of masking and things like that to get this thing right. But hopefully those things will break up and rather than having a dead grey colour, those markings will actually will break up that colour. Bit of an advertising sheet here. Okay, so we go into our first sprues here, guys. I'll grab my knife and we'll open up the first one here. I want to open this up because this has got some really nice parts in it that I really want to show off. And my blade's not as sharp as I wish it was, so I'll have to give it another cut. Through there. Actually, the blade is really blunt, sorry guys. I thought I had a new blade in there, but obviously I haven't. So we'll pull that out, we'll have a quick look at that. Okay, and I'm just looking at the detail on that. Hopefully you can pick it up in the camera. Some really, really nice detail on there, guys. One of the things I was concerned about was the actual width of the engraved panel lines, but that sort of surprised me. Looking at those there, they're really, really nice. They're not overly done and they're not overdone. Sometimes I have seen some of these trumpeter kits where they're actually like what we call trench lines through the panels, but they're actually quite nice, and they've got rivets right where they should be on either side of the panel lines. So once the thing's painted up and weathered up, you'll see all those rivets, they'll pop right out of this, and so that's really, really nice. Look at the nose cone here, nice and smooth. It's got this really fine texture on it, which is particular of the aircraft. When you look at the actual photos of the aircraft, there looks like not a rough texture, but there is a texture to that nose cone, so that's actually engraved in there, so that should be nice. But that looks really, really nice, and the rivets are really, really fine. For 48 scale, they should be really, really nice, those rivet details. They're actually really nice, and there is actually a bit of a texture on that tail as well, but I dare say we will lose that texture. For all the photos I've seen, I'm not sure because I don't know the aircraft. I've never actually seen one in real life, but I don't think there's that sort of texture on the tail, but I think we're going to lose it anyway. By the time we put an undercoat, base colour and do some weathering, I think we're going to lose that. But hopefully that is not going to be too much of a problem for my mate. And I'll open this bag as well. Just give me a second, guys, because like I say, this knife is fairly blunt, so I have to get it in the right position to cut it. Pull these out, have a quick look. So this is two sprues that obviously are exactly the same, they're just mirrors of each other. These are the jet engines on either side. Again, looking at the detail on these, absolutely beautiful. There's no flash I can see off, and anywhere they're attached to the sprues, it's fairly fine attachments. The only place you can see is a problem is up here on this piece here. I can see there's a fairly big flat piece on that, and on the other side they're supposed to be rounded, so that may be a bit of a problem, but these are things you sort of have to look at when you're cutting these off the sprues, guys, to make sure that you look out for areas like that. Cut them away from the sprue and then sand them back. A little fine part down here, you can see a little bit of flash on there. It's not horrible, but there is flash there that will have to be cleaned up, especially if it's going to be in somewhere that's going to be seen. But the housings here are absolutely beautiful. The panel lines are really, really fine. Again, the rivet detail there, for 48 scale, that's very, very fine. That's absolutely beautiful. So by the time this is painted and weathered, when we do a pin wash on that, that's really going to pop out. It's absolutely beautiful. And you see all those little details that are going to be inside the engines here. Absolutely gorgeous. So if you want to have these things opened up, honestly, guys, this is the kit to do it with. You're going to have these open up and see all this beautiful fine detail inside. But like I say, I'm going to have to see when I go through the build whether I want to do that or not. I'm hoping to sort of get this one built and sort of put on the bench and present it to my mate while they're still going through the repairs on their house and all that sort of thing. So I don't want to sort of waste too much time on doing it, but I do want to do justice to the kit as well. But anyway, that's that sprue. I won't worry about opening this one here, guys. This is just a couple of big flat panels, some internal panels, and again, the detail on there is really, really nice. I can see a little bit of flashing on a couple of parts. It's not major, but there is some flashing in there. I can see a bit of a wheel handle there, a couple of radio dashes, things like that, and I think some of these are the wheel wells, but really, really nice detail with the hydraulics and stuff all moulded in there. So if you want to show off underneath the aircraft, these things are all there to do it. Very, very nice. Very impressed with that. Okay, this one here, we've got our tails on here, and these are beautiful. I can just see, again, I can see that beautiful, that the engraving is really, really fine, and the rivet detail is exactly like the other pieces. Really, really nice, really fine. For 48 scale, that's going to really pop out nicely. And these are obviously internal parts, where all the parts are going to stick on there. And again, I can see all the gauges and buttons on here. This is obviously a control panel of some sort with all those 4 chairs sit on there. Absolutely beautiful. So when I paint those, I'm not going to do it by hand because I'm worried if I do it by hand, the paint's going to be too thick and you'll lose that detail. Even though you won't be able to see much of it once the plane's closed up, I want to make sure that's all really nice inside the aircraft. And all the radios and things here are absolutely gorgeous. All the buttons and things on there are so fine, they're really, really nice. So if you want to have some way of showing those off, if you want to have a cut open panel where you can sort of see inside the aircraft, this really allows you to do that, guys. Absolutely beautiful detail in there. I'm going to have a look at one side of the fuselage here. As you can see, this is massive. She's a big machine, absolutely beautiful big machine. Now this is obviously without the nose on it, without the full tail. By the time this gets wings, tail and a nose, it's going to be absolutely huge. And that is moulded absolutely beautiful. Absolutely really nice. I can't see any flashing on there. I can see a couple little notches on here on the bottom, but the rest of it's just gorgeous. And the panel lines, rivet detail right along these edges here, absolutely gorgeous. And where the flaps open up on the back here, the detail that's moulded inside there is really nice, guys. So again, this thing just leaves your options right open. All your rivet detail goes up all around the nose pieces here as well. There's a window in there where you can see where those guys sit, those 4 panels sit. But obviously once you put that window in there and put the fuselage together, you won't see a lot in there unless you put, say, like a light in there, or if you want to do something really different and cut the panel out so you can see in there. It's up to you, but there's plenty of detail in there to be able to do that if you want to do that. But that is really nice, really impressed with that. Up around the tail hinges here, again, beautiful rivet detail on there. That's really nice. Really impressed with it, actually. Okay, next sprue here we have, okay, these are all internal parts again. All the details there again. I think these are all wheel housings inside. Got our rims here for our tyres. The detail on those is beautiful as well, guys. All your wheel studs and things like that. But there's not much to see on that one there, but it's this all right as well. And this one here is exactly the same. So I think all these sprues are pretty much the same, guys, as in the quality is there no matter which sprue we look at. And I think we can see a nose cone in there. We can see our hooks here for our wings. These are fairly fine, and where they've actually connected them on the ends, so you should be able to clean those up. They shouldn't be too much of a problem when you clean those up. But really nice. I'm just looking for flash, and we've got these big panels here where the pins are connected all the way around the outside here, but that's not a problem, guys. I mean, these things are going to be in place, so we're not going to see them anyway, so they should be no problem to clean up. Got a tail hook up there that looks nice as well, nice and smooth. No flash hanging off it. It's connected to the sprue in some fairly good places. And here we have our wings. Now these are the parts I really want to be sort of careful of with the rivet detail. I'm looking at the rivet detail in the trench, well, not trenches, but rivet detail in the engraved lines along here. They're actually really fine. They're I think they're a little bit finer than the rest of the aircraft, so I'm not sure on the real aircraft whether they are finer on that or not, but they're absolutely beautiful in here, really nice. This leading edge here is just, yeah, it's just, I can't even explain how close they are. It just looks like a 72nd scale riveting pattern. They're so fine. They're all little hatches in here as well, and they're the same thing. There's no flashing, and where they're connected, they should be easy to clean up. So yeah, that's really, actually I'm really impressed with that. That's really nice. Next piece here, again, going from the wings we just looked at, looking at these, it's the same thing, guys. It's really fine. The rivet detail again looks like 72nd scale. It's so fine. So it's something you have to be careful of when you build it, that you don't put too much paint and stuff on it. You're going to actually close those up because they're so fine that I think if you put a thick layer of paint on there and sand it back, you'll actually lose a lot of detail. It'd be a shame because it's so nice and fine. It really is. And the panel lines, the same thing. They're so fine and so narrow, the ones next to the rivets, that you have to be careful you don't bury those. You've got the one at the leading edge here is a little bit wider, which is a good indication they've actually spent their time and made sure that this one here is finer, this one's here is thicker, so maybe it's leading to what they've seen on the real aircraft when they measured it up. But it looks really nice, no flashes, and I'll just sort of see wherever they're connected to the sprue, they're in place, so they shouldn't be a problem. I mean, you've got the leading edges here where they're connected, but you know you have to put 2 wings together to make one piece, and you know anywhere there's pieces that are connected like that, you have to sand it back cleaned anyway, so it doesn't matter, they're going to be cleaned up because of where they are, so it's a good place to actually put them. I've seen some that are put right out here on the wingtips, and that can be a real pain because you sort of put an indentation out on the wingtip, and that sort of is a bit of a hassle to fill in when you get onto the build. Okay, we've got our last sprue in here. We'll have a quick look at this one. Again, there's the opposite of the other one, and it's exactly the same, guys. There's not much more I can tell you about this. These stripes back across here, they're slightly raised, they're not overly done. I mean, I've seen some aircraft where you have raised panels and things like that, raised areas, where it's just like big square chunks, but that's actually nice and fine, so that's really nicely done there. There's not much else more I can tell you about that. It's exactly the same as the rest of the pieces, guys. Moulded nicely and joined in really good places. So I'll put a few of these back in, and we'll have a look in this box on the side. Okay, I know the canopy's in there. I've had a look at that. I've got to admit the canopy is really nice on that. I don't want to take it out because I've re-wrapped it in all plastic, guys, and I've had it out and had a good look at it. I don't want to dirty it up. I don't want to take that back out until I actually paint it, because it's so fine. I put my finger underneath it. You can see straight through it. There's no distortion. It's a really nice canopy. But you'll see that as I go through the build. Here's all the instrument panel in here. Again, it's just absolutely beautifully detailed. You can feel the raised panels and all that sort of thing. Really nice. Landing lights, stuff like that. These are the windows that go on the side. And I haven't had these ones out, but you can see just even through the plastic, they're nicely moulded. So, and then we've got, these look like the, actually I can't tell you, to be honest, like maybe they're armrests or something, I'm not sure, but that's something you have to look at. But there's some nice detail moulded into those, and in here we've got our tyres. So there's one of those beautiful things about this kit, these beautiful rubber tyres, guys. So the only thing about having a rubber tyre that is fairly stiff, there's a line around the outside, the moulding seam line, and you won't have a flat spot where the thing's sitting down unless you sort of melt it somehow, put up some heat on it, but it shouldn't matter too much anyway. That looks like, I think this must be part of the jets, I'd say. It must be inlets or outlets or something for the jets, the same as that other part I wasn't sure of there before. So now we get down to, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 sheets of photo-etched. So this is what I was saying about this kit being really good value for money, and obviously there's some really nice detail in this. So these are obviously wing parts and things like that, hinges. So if you want to have the wings lifted and all that sort of stuff, it's all here. I mean, a lot of kits you have to buy this stuff separate to be able to do this. But you can look at parts like this, you can see how fine they are. You will have to be very careful how you trim these off the sprues. You don't want to break those off. And here's all the other parts. Looks like inside wheel wells, things like that. But as we go through the build, we'll actually work out what a lot of stuff is. But a lot of it, I'll say, will be wheel wells, inside the landing, you know, like where you actually fold the wings, things like that. But like I say, we go through the build, we'll actually work out exactly what all those things are. But really nice. I mean, photo etch is pretty much standard, but sometimes you look at parts and you look where they're actually attached, and there's actually 1, 2, 3, just 3 parts on a little bendy part like that. And that's something where sometimes you get a kit where it's on these little attached points right on the outside. Might have another couple here, another couple there. It can be a real pain to sort of cut it away without damaging the part, but they're on big flat areas. So it'll be easy to clean up, and hopefully you won't bend that part up when you're trying to detach it from the plate. So it look really nice. And just looking at the rivet detail on there is absolutely gorgeous. Like I say, there's probably going to be in areas where you're not going to see it anyway. So I'm not even sure if we're going to be using these guys, but I'll see as I go through the build. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much the end of the review of the kit. Hope you enjoy this build. Hopefully my mate that I'm doing this for and his dad enjoyed this build as well. I know it's something I'm going to enjoy doing for you, and just feeling that I can do something to sort of lift your spirits a little bit. Hope you enjoy it, guys, and we'll keep getting on with the build now. Okay, modelers, so we're sort of getting, you know, we're moving along here a fair bit. I've got the cockpit done here. I haven't weathered it up yet. I'm going to do a little bit more weathering in there, put a little bit of dust on the floors, things like that. Not too much. These things are on aircraft carriers, so I don't want to sort of overdo it. And a lot of this stuff in the back here, I haven't worried about painting it like too neat, because honestly, you're just not going to see any of that. It's going to be buried inside the fuselage. So I'm not going to worry too much about the seat belts and all that sort of thing. Well, if you want to do that, you can. That's fine. But you're not, honestly, you're not going to see any of that. That's going to be buried inside the fuselage. You're not going to see it. But to know that stuff's there is fairly nice anyway. Now the cockpit itself, as you see, I've sort of, well, I haven't weathered it up yet, but I've painted it up in the, I'm hoping it's correct colours, and it does look the part, definitely looks the part, and it's come up quite nice, and I've got to say there's no fit issues so far with doing this part here. Now the only part I've struck, which is why I turned the camera on, is putting the landing gear together in the back part of this aircraft. Now these end up buried inside a wheel well, which is this guy here, which is the other side that I've done. And as you see, there's a lot of little parts. You can see all these steps here go together to make that up. And the wheel is actually going to be sitting in that little pinhole there. And there's no real, like, I mean, there's a couple little locating marks where you put these in, but honestly, they're not something you can rely on. You sort of got to move it around till you get it where you think is the right spot. And even then it could be wrong. So but what I'm doing is I'm putting these together and trying to do it in one step so that everything's still adjustable, like the glue's still just soft enough so you can sort of move stuff around to make it fit. But this is probably the most complex part of the build so far, and honestly it's way over engineered. They could have done a lot less than this. There's just too many parts to make this up, especially when it's for your main landing gear. And if these don't sit correctly, like if they dry and you put your wheels in there and they're crooked, it's going to be a real hassle to try and straighten them up. So just, well, this is what I'm doing anyway, guys. I'm putting together in one piece, in one sitting, so that everything's nice and soft and pliable, so that when I put those wheels on there, if they're not straight, I can move stuff around to make them line up. But so far, that's the only fit issue I've found. Everything else, the nose wheel well and all that sort of stuff, is going together beautifully. But these guys here, honestly, they're way over engineered. They could have done this a much more simple pattern than what they've done here. But anyway, guys, I'll keep getting on with this and I'll turn the camera back on at the next step. Okay, model, so as you can see, we're pretty much all together here now. This is a really big bird. It's huge. I had no idea. Don't worry about that being crooked, guys. It's actually not glued in there yet. But yeah, it's actually way bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's actually just a massive big chunk of plastic. But anyway, there's a few little fit issues. Like, they're not dramatic, they're not really bad, but they just need a bit of cleaning up. As you can see, the wing roots here, there was a bit of a gap in there. The gap underneath is actually bigger again, so they had to be filled in and sanded. Now, one of the things I did find with this is where the tips of the wings go. If you don't have them folded, you're going to end up with a gap in there when you glue them on nice and straight, so they have to be filled in as well. If you have them folded up, obviously that gap's not going to be there, but to fold them up, you've got to do a lot of photo etch work in there. And I didn't want this one opened up I didn't want folded wings and open flaps and all that sort of thing. I just wanted to have the wings like straight out. I've got the leading edges here drooped in the droop position, obviously, but that's only to sort of show off, to break up the colour scheme when I do the painting. Obviously inside here I can weather up a little bit and have like a little bit of a different colour in there, just to sort of break up the paint pattern, because it's such a big lump of plastic. And there's one colour over the top. If I just do one colour, it's going to be a bit hard to break it up and make it patchy. So I wanted to have that just to sort of help break it up a little bit. Obviously I will do a bit of fading in the panels, so that help break it up as well, but that'll be a big help there if I can put inside here in a bit of a different colour to sort of really help break it up. It's the same on both wings, obviously, because both sides can fold up. There's flaps at the back here. These open up. And there's all the gears in there, like all the wiring and stuff like that. Well, not all of it, but there's some detail in there. So if you want to have those open, that's fine, because it's actually there that allows that. The radar dome, or the dome at the front here that's got the radar housing inside, if you want to have that opened up, you can as well. There's options there with hinges and everything, and all the gear is actually inside there as well. So if you want that opened up, you can do that as well. One of the things I'm doing now is I'm actually going around just running over the sandpaper, flattening down not only where I've got some filler, but also just sort of over the whole aircraft. And you can see sink marks. See where the darker parts are inside that seam up there? That's actually where the plastic's a little bit lower. So you've actually got sink marks like all the way along that spine. I found a few out on the wings. There's even some up the side, actually the flaps on the side I was pointing to. There's a great big, I don't know why, there's a big rectangle shape that I found in there that had to be sanded down, because once you put the paint on there, that would really stand out. You'll actually be able to see that, and it just, yeah, it's just got to be gotten rid of. So it's good to go over, just lightly sand over it, and those little things will pop out at you so you can see them and get rid of them now. The other thing I've got to do is clean up the engines. Now the engines went together not too bad to fit. There's no major fit issues, but you can see again where I was talking about the shiny parts there on either side of the seams. It's where the plastic's actually sunken down, so I'm going to have to sand those back, and I'm going to have to put the rivet detail and seam lines back in there, because I've got to use some fairly hefty sandpaper to get that out a little bit quicker. Then I'll go down to finer grades. By then that little bit of riveting there will actually be gone. So I've got a riveting tool there, and I'll be going over the whole aircraft and re-riveting and doing all the seam lines again. It's the same with this bit up the spine. By the time I polish that out, all the rivet detail and these seam lines are going to be, well, if they're not gone, they'll be barely visible. So it's just something you've got to keep in mind, guys, when you do clean up work like that. Now, I haven't got the wheels and the landing gear stuck on there yet. The reason being because handling the thing, I'm bound to knock those off. Such a big piece of plastic, and handling it and moving it around, I'm bound to knock those off. So I'm going to paint those separate, and the last step is actually to put those on underneath there. I've got the nose landing gear underneath here. I don't want to tip it up because I've got lights in the road here, guys, and I don't want to bump anything while I tip it up. There you go, you can just see it there. There's the nose landing gear. I've already got that up underneath there, but it's really sturdy the way that's stuck in there, and it's not in a place I normally grab the airframe, so it's not going to matter too much. Just be aware too, when you join wings and stuff like that, the flaps up here are going to be movable, so you don't want to actually fill those in, that last little section there, and the same on the other side. It's the same out on the wing roots here, guys. That's got to be cleaned out there, because these flaps are all movable individually, so you don't want to have those joined together. Where the engine, the root for the engine goes onto the wing there, that needs a little bit of filling there and sanding as well. They're not bad fits, they're actually quite good. I was actually quite surprised how well they fitted on there, but they do need a little bit of work. And the other thing I found is where the roots of those come out the back of the wings here, that's not actually supposed to be there, and it's the same on the other side, the little one on the other side there. Just be very, very careful of that. That will actually have to be cut off, and I'm going to reshape underneath the engine housing underneath there to like make that sort of curve in just before the end of the wing there. I don't know why it's like that. I really have no idea why they ended up like that, but they're not supposed to be like that. They're not supposed to be sticking out the back like that. But that's pretty much all I can tell you at the moment, guys. The canopy up here, as you can see, I've already got that masked off. I've got it glued on there with white glue at the moment, and I don't think it's sitting down as nice as I'd like it to be. So maybe there'll be a little bit more cleaning up work around that when I finally finish that off as well. But that's about it, guys. I'm going to get on and finish all the sanding and stuff like that. I'll put a coat over it, like a rough undercoat, and that'll show up anything that I've missed. I'll clean that up, and then we'll start with the base coat, and I'll turn the camera back on at that stage. Okay, modelers, so as you can see, we've got I've got the insignia white on the places that's got to be, which is all underneath the aircraft, the underneath the wings, all that sort of thing, underneath the belly, all that. Plus underneath the engines under here, and some of the actual ailerons and things like that, they're all insignia white as well. Now insignia white, and to do it in Tamiya, they don't actually have an insignia white unless you buy it in the spray can, and I didn't want to use the spray can. So what I'd done, the closest that I found, and looking over the internet, is some white and just a light, like a little tiny little bit of the deck tan, just to sort of tint that colour up, and that gives you the insignia white colour, which is very, very close to white. It's just a bit of an off-white colour. But as you can see on the top of the engines, it comes up quite nice. It is actually quite a nice colour. It's very, very close to the insignia white, because they've got a spray can of it, and I match them up, and yeah, it does look very, very close. Now I'm going to go over now and put the light gold grey, which is the main colour that goes over the whole thing. Now again, to me, it doesn't actually make that colour. The closest I found on the internet is this one here, the XF19, mixed with white, the X2. So you put, I think it's 2 of this, 1 of the white, to get it down to the light gold grey colour. I mean, I've seen people on there too, on the internet, say about putting a dash of blue or something like that in it, because it's got this bit of a hue to it that it looks like it's got a bit of a blue tinge to it. But sort of comparing the colour with mixing the white and the sky grey, it seems to be very, very close. And by the time it's weathered up and everything, you're really not going to pick the difference anyway. If I put a little bit of blue in there, I really don't think you're going to pick the difference. But if I do the overcoat now, and I compare it with the chart that I've got in the background here, and it's not right, I will actually try and put a little bit of the blue in there and just see how that goes. The other thing I want to just show you, you can probably see around the canopy here, that white thing there. That's actually the, pull it out and show you. I've never used this stuff here before. Perfect plastic putty, and I've read a lot about it online and all that sort of thing, and I wanted to actually try it out. So I've tried it on this aircraft. Now what I found is I put it on, spread it out, let it dry, and then I went to wet sand it, like I wet sand everything. But what happens is, even when it's dry, the water will actually start dissolving it. So it actually sort of dug into wherever I had it. Now, that's really handy in a case like a Canopy, because I used to do the same thing with the Mr. Surface and stuff, but I used thinners to rub a cotton bud around there, and what it'll do is sort of dissolve the putty and sort of, wipe it right back till you just left that little thin seam there. You can do exactly the same stuff with this putty here, but you can use water. You can do it when it's wet, when you first put it on as well. Just sort of smear it out, use a little bit of water to go around and wash it back. But the thing is, when it dries, it does shrink. Not a lot, it's very, very minimal. It does shrink just a little bit. So just be aware of that. So what I prefer to do is put it on, let it dry. It dries much quicker than the Mr. Surfacer. So I put it on, I give it a few hours to dry out, and I'll go around and sort of dry sand off the rough bits or file off however much I've got on there. Then I come down to, with the earbud dipped in water, and just rub it around. As you can see, it's put a beautiful fine little line around that canopy there. Now, the telltale story of that is when you paint it, you'll see it show up. So if you're a bit worried about it, rather than putting all your base coat on first, what you can do is just use a brush and brush around that with the base colour, and just see how smooth that finish is. Now, to my eye, it's come up very, very smooth, so I'm not going to worry about doing that, but I normally do that with seams. Like, I had to do a little bit more on here. I used a brush to brush over that, because looked like there was a gap there, and I was lucky I'd done that, because there was a really severe little nick mark through the middle of that I hadn't seen with the naked eye. Once I brushed over it with a different colour, it really showed up, so I was able to refill that and sand it back down again. But anyway guys, I'm going to go on and mix the paint now, put this base coat on. After that I'll put a clear coat of Future over the whole thing. Just one more thing, I've got a couple of black parts like over the nose, a couple of little black parts to tape off and do those as well. But after I've done that, I'll put over the clear coat. I'll let that dry overnight, and then I'll come on and start doing the decals. Okay modelers, so just forgive the sound of the air vents running in the background as usual. So the stage we're up to now, I've got the decals on this. I can't really show you at the moment because I'm trying to show you one on the wing out here, but they are all on. And the stage I'm up to now is I'm going over and doing the panel lines. Now this is like what we call a pin wash. So I'm just using a fine brush here, and I'm using these guys here, these MIG panel wash line, like they're really good to use, the little panel wash things. Very nice. There's 3 different colours in these. This is the deep brown, there's a black, blue, and I think there's like a grey colour as well in the pack that I got. So all I do is just use this fine brush, go over where the lines are, put it in there. As you can see, it's a little bit rough, but I'll put that in there like that. Then I use just a cotton bud like this and wipe off the excess. Now I'll just show you a little bit here. I don't want to sort of do too much on the camera because it'll take too long. So I'll just show you this little bit here. Now the idea is to rub in the pattern of the airflow. So if you end up with a little bit of streaking in that, it's going to be in the pattern of the airflow anyway. So where the grime sort of sits, that's the pattern it's going to be in. Now as you can see, it's left a fair bit in there. It's all sort of stained around that. So what I do is the other end of it, I sort of dip into, well, we call it shellite here in Australia. It's like a really mild mineral terps, very mild. It's it barely strips paint. And I dip the cotton bud in there and make most of the excess. I'll wipe it off on a tissue, and then the same thing, go in the same pattern as the airflow and keep twirling it around. Now as it gets dirty, you can see it's leaving more behind as it gets dirty, but that's not too bad because you want a few streaks in there. But now that's getting too dirty, as you can see. So we'll pull out a new bud, we'll dip it again, take the excess off, and again just keep moving along like so. Now what's happening here is I've sort of gone into this stuff back here where it's really thick, so it just keeps sort of wiping more off there. But as long as you keep going with the airflow, it shouldn't matter too much. So the area, just go over the areas where you've done. That was my problem there. I went into the areas that haven't been done yet, and you'll take most of it off like so, but you will have a few lines left there like so. And as you can see, it comes up quite nice. You're doing a nice pin wash, but you've also got that nice pattern running over the wings where the airflow would have went. Now I'm sort of looking at the plane at the angle is the wrong angle because of the camera, so I'm just going to go over where I've been and correct those lines a little bit like so. Okay, now I'm going to do that with the whole aircraft. It does take a while, it's a little bit time consuming, but it's definitely worth the effort. This really brings out all your panel lines, makes everything pop out. If you've done the decals correctly, they'll pop as well because they should be set into the panel lines, and the panel lines will show up right through those decals, so it'll make a big difference. Anyway guys, I'll keep getting on with this and I'll turn the camera back on at the next step. Okay modelers, just again forgive the noises in the background. I've got the air vents running. I just want to show you what I'm doing to weather this aircraft up. Now this is going to take me quite a while because it is such a large aircraft. Now what I got is this brush here, and I've dipped it in white oil paint mixed with a little tiny bit of black, just the smallest little smidgen of black in there to give a grey. And I've also got some others over the other side there you can't see, but just a couple of different shades. Now all I'm doing is I'm dipping just the tip of the brush in there, then wiping it off on a tissue, okay, and just going up the middle of the panel like so, around a few circles. Now I've already done this and I've worked my way to the outside of the panels, okay. And you want to make it random. You don't want this to be smooth. You want it to be fairly random, so it looks fairly patchy. Okay, and all the way along that whole piece, that whole panel, like so. Okay, now as you can see, that's fairly patchy looking. I've got a big feathery brush, sorry, wrong one. Big feathery brush like this. And all I do is blend it in, like so. Okay. And again, you want the airflow, so you're sort of pushing it to the direction of the airflow. Now, all you want to do, you want to keep doing this until you get the desired look. And also I've got this brush here, which is dipped in the black oil paint with just a little tiny bit of white, just so it just sort of thins it down a little bit. And you want to go over the panel lines, like this. And hopefully you're picking this up on the camera. You can see there's darkening up those panel lines. Not too much, just enough. It's sort of like a bit of a smudge mark over those panel lines, okay? And as you can see, it looks like a little bit overdone there at the moment. So again, we get the big feathery brush. And we feather it around like so, just to sort of blend it in, okay? And then you end up with that sort of look there on the inside of that wing, where it looks nice and faded, and the panel lines really pop out at you. And that's the look we're after on the whole aircraft, okay? So it's going to take me a while to do this, and it's definitely worth the effort because it makes it look like actually like a used aircraft rather than something that's nice and polished and new. You want to sort of fade it and give the darkened panel lines, you know, get rid of dirt and grime. Now after I've done this step here, I'm going to seal this in with another flat coat. And then after that, I'm going to go off joints like this here where these intersections are, just little tiny streaks, like little and these little hatches here, little tiny streaks, just to give that a nice airflow look, like this thing's been flying through the air and it's been gathering dust and stuff like that, and it hasn't been washed off. So anyway guys, I'm going to keep getting on with this. It's going to take quite a while, but it's definitely worth the effort, like I say. Okay, modelers, just forgive the sound of the exhaust fan running in the background there. Hopefully it should be a bit quieter because I've actually moved a little bit away, so hopefully you can't hear it too much through the camera. But just wanted to show you the finished article here now. This is our Skywarrior. She's all finished off. As you know from the beginning of the video, I've actually built this for one of my subs. His father used to fly in these things as a navigator bombardier. So I built it for him because I've just been through a little bit of hard luck with the hurricanes you guys had over there, and they're sort of rebuilding a little bit with their house and that, and I offered to do something like to help lift their spirits, and he told me about his father flying in these, and his father actually got the first footage of one of these crash landing on the deck of an aircraft carrier, which you can actually look at that on YouTube. Now I hope I've done you justice, mate. I hope I've done justice for your old man. I know this is not that particular one he probably would have flown in, and it's not the one that crash landed, but you know, it's still the Skywarrior, so hopefully, yeah, hopefully it makes you happy, mate. Give your dad something to look at. So as far as the kit goes, it's been a really nice kit to build. The only real issue I had, I was a bit disappointed in, was down the middle here, like I showed earlier, that the plastic is sort of mismoulded. It leaves a big sink mark down the middle. You've got to fill that in. I had to regrave all the panel lines and rivets and things like that right up the back, right up its spine. But other than that, honestly, there's been no fit issues. It's gone together absolutely beautiful. It's one of those aircraft. I probably would never have built one of these, except that, like I say, I've done this for one of my mates I've made here on YouTube, and as I was building it, I've just fallen in love with this aircraft. It's just a beautiful looking thing, and it's just such a huge bird. So it made me sort of do a little bit of research on them, and yeah, I've got a bit of a fascination with them at the moment. So, but like I say, unless you've built one, you have no idea of the size of these things. They're actually a massive aircraft, and they're actually quite a nice bird. I mean, I looked at all the box art and that for different versions, and nothing really took my fancy. It wasn't something I sort of really loved until I started building it. I've actually, yeah, just loved them. They're just I don't know, there's just something about their shape, and yeah, they're just gorgeous. I've just fallen in love with it. So, but the paint schemes, you're fairly well stuck with basic paint schemes. There's not a lot of different paint schemes around for them. They did go through a lot of use over the years because they were around for a few decades, so they did get used quite a bit. Now this one here, I didn't want to go overboard on the weathering. As you can see, I've done a bit of weathering with some nice streaking coming off, things like that. I didn't want to over weather it, but I'm happy with the result. And like at one stage, yeah, I thought about actually taking all the weathering off and just having it just a nice clean aircraft. But once I had the wings finished off, it all came into place and it looked nice. I'm quite happy with the results. That it's not overdone, it's not underdone. It was sort of the look I was going for. Probably one of the things that you might want to do with this aircraft is not put your landing gear on until the last step, because they're only sort of held on with this one place where they're held, and they're fairly flimsy. So just, yeah, I left them off until the last step. That was the last thing I'd done. The canopy, I've got a couple of little issues around the side here because I've actually knocked the canopy off. I mishandled it. It was my own fault. And I put my hand over to grab it, and I've actually knocked the canopy and it came off. So now trying to get it to sit back down there because the glue had dried, it's not sitting down flush. So I have to take that off and sand that off and sit it back down again, but I'll do that at a later date. I just want to get this one done in time for my mate for Christmas, and he can pass it on to his dad. There's not much else more I can really say about it, guys. It's like I say, it's a beautiful looking aircraft. It's a really nice build, except for that issue up the middle on the spine that I was telling you about. I can definitely recommend this kit if you love these birds. Yeah, go out and have a go at it. These are definitely nice kits. I was very, very impressed with it. I mean, even if you know it's not an aircraft you've ever really thought about, have a look at it, because it surprised me when I was putting it together. Like I say, I've just fallen in love with this thing. It's just a gorgeous looking machine. But anyway, guys, not much more I can say now. I'll end the video now. Thanks for my mate for asking me to do this, and yeah, it made me fall in love with another aircraft now, like I need that. But hopefully he's done some justice for you and your dad, mate, and we appreciate all your dad's service over the years and things like that. So hopefully he's done a bit of justice for you, and I hope you're going okay with all your rebuilds going on there. But anyway, guys, like always, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up down the bottom there. If you're not subbed to the channel and you like the video, hit that big sub button down there as well. There's links down there. You can go down and have a look at my links. I've got Facebook and Patreon and a few other things down there. So yeah, go down and hit the sub button. And speaking of aircraft, there's one taking off in the background there, you can probably hear. So anyway, guys, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching, as always, and I'll see you in the next video.